It's time for Horse Talk Live, a full hour dedicated to the associations, products, and events going on within the horse world.
Howdy, horse lovers. Thanks for coming to join us for Horse Talk Live on Rural TV. I'm your host, Lizzie Iwerson, and today our show is focused around our guests who are here to represent Standlee Hay Company in the lovely state of Ohio. And we're going to learn what makes Idaho, what makes Idaho so great when it comes to growing hay. So let's get to know our guest. Sitting right next to me, we have Bob Buckley, and next to him is the president of this family-run company, Dusty Standlee. To the two of you, I apologize for saying Idaho, and I should know this. So anyways, besides my little screw up there, thanks for being our guest today.
Well, thank you for inviting us, and we're happy to be here.
Well, when it comes to hay, this is something that is important to all of us who own horses. It is the foundation for keeping our horses happy, healthy, and living and breathing. So we're going to find out what it means to have good quality hay and how Standlee Hay Company is providing that for us from coast to coast. So, Bob, tell us what you do with the company.
Well, I am the National Account Sales Manager. I've been with Standlee Hay Company since 2003, and I have a great opportunity to present our products to a large number of retailers.
Okay, so that if we're not up in Idaho, then we can have access to this great product, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Dusty, tell us a little bit about the history of your company.
All right. My father started the company in 1982. We started shipping some hay out east to some different markets, and we realized that there was a need for premium forage in certain parts of the country.
Okay.
So we worked hard at figuring out how to put up quality hay. We've got a pretty good system still today, and that's been part of our success, is being able to control quality and put it up and go all the way to the consumers.
Okay. So when you started and what you farm now, has the number grown of acres?
Yes, we started out just baling for some growers in our area. Didn't own a whole lot of acreage. In the early 1990s, we bought our first farm, and today we harvest about 23,000 acres worth of forage.
Holy smokes. How many people does it take to farm that many acres?
We have about 300 employees in the summertime.
Okay.
Drops off to about 220 in the off season.
Okay.
Wouldn't be possible without all those great people at Standlee Hay Company, though.
So what is it about your state and the region that you guys are in that makes for such good hay?
Well, a lot of it's our climate. You know, if we were to ask or dream for the perfect season in the hay business, we would want a lot of snow in the winter.
Okay.
Mountains fill up with plenty of white stuff. Then, then it stops raining about the 1st of June, and it's just bright and sunny and hot all summer long, so we can put up nice green hay products.
And you say that you want that wet winter or snowy winter so you can irrigate, correct? Which is kind of a luxury compared to some other parts of this country.
That is very true. We can turn the weather on and off for the most part when we want to. The hay business is still challenging because you always worry about rain.
No kidding.
But we can turn a pivot on or turn it off depending on moisture in the soil or what's needed. So it's definitely, not all parts of the country have that option.
Seriously. So do you irrigate then with just pivots?
Yeah, 90% of what we do is all pivots. Some of it's still sprinkler, and people have to move them, but pretty well everything's pivots now.
Okay. And let's talk about all the things that make for this good quality of hay that you are so proud of. When you say the word quality, what exactly do we look for?
Well, in hay, it's stem to leaf ratio. So there would be three things. We would call it leaf retention, Stem size is an important thing, and color.
Okay.
So in our company, when we're out grading hay, we typically look at those three things. So, you know, color, obviously we want green color like you see here.
You bet.
Meaning no weather when it was cut in the field. Everything was, you know, naturally cured by the sun. Number two is stem size, meaning, you know, you don't want stemmy, coarse stems all the way through your hay. You want finer stemmed hay. And number three is leaf retention. So in our climate, you know, a lot of places in the country try to get humidity out of the hay because it's challenging to put up.
Okay.
In our climate, we actually have to bell and rake and do all those processes at night when the air is heavier and we can get dew and humidity on the hay. So our guys will work all night long putting this hay up just to keep that leaf attached to the stem so it's all intact.
Okay. So would you say that timing is very important in this whole process?
Everything's got to be on time. We have to, yeah, I mean, we watch those fields from, you know, it's usually 28 days between cuttings on alfalfa. We'll cut it 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay.
So, you know, 28 days, we cut it, then we're watching it every day, hoping that it doesn't rain so it stays nice and green, and then just as soon as it's ready to go, we get it in the bell, and actually at that point it's not over. We put it in sheds, we wrap it with tarps and plastic because it's real important to get the hay out of the elements, rain, snow.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to maintaining this good hay too, making sure that that you're not wasting your money. So you mentioned that it's sun cured. So, you know, some other folks sometimes in different parts of the country, it's chemically dried. So explain that difference and what benefit that has to somebody.
In many parts of the country, producers use propionic acid or different chemicals to try to help with inhibiting the mold so it doesn't grow in the hay. Fortunately, in our climate, we don't use any of them chemicals. It's all, you know, we cut it 5 to 6 days later. It's dry, all the moisture's out of the stem, so we can go in and bell it without any mold inhibitors or chemicals that you'll see in a lot of hay production.
It's all natural.
Okay, which people, you can't argue with that. I mean,
I love that natural hay.
Yeah. And what about the soil in Idaho makes for such good hay product?
We have very rich volcanic soil, so you know, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium are your core nutrients, and obviously if you have good nutrients in the soil, you're going to grow better alfalfa or grass at the end of the day. So it starts in the soil. We take it very seriously. Every field is sampled. The soil is sampled in every field. And every field is applied with fertilizer specifically to that field to make sure that all our nutrients in the soil are kept up to par.
Okay. And how do you determine which type of hay? We'll get to all these different types of hay that Standlee Hay has to offer. How do you decide which one goes where, and do you keep it that way or rotate? What's your plan?
Yeah, crop rotations are very important to keep yields up and forage quality up. If you were to grow alfalfa hay for 10 years in the same field, it would probably not produce very well.
Okay.
And probably get worse every year. So we'll typically rotate 3 to 4 years in alfalfa. Then we'll go into a grass, followed by potatoes or a grain. So it's usually a 8 or 9 year rotation by the time you go from hay and get back into hay.
Okay. So a lot of what we're talking about, these techniques that Standlee Hay uses, is applicable to our friends at home that are farming, correct? You know, the same applies for just smaller acre farmers. Is that true? These are general rules for growing hay?
You bet.
Okay.
Yeah, when you look at, doesn't matter if you're growing corn or wheat or barley or sugar beets, it's all the same. You have to take good care of your soil.
Okay.
And that means rotation.
And that rotation is, do you have anything to add for rotation, Bob?
I think our company does a great job with our rotations, and every year part of my job is selling the products, and I want to make sure that we have enough for our customers, and they've always provided enough products for our customers. There's never a worry.
Okay. Is Standlee Hay developing new products for consumers? Have you, has the company grown in any way? What changes have you seen since you started, Bob?
Well, back in 2003, we only had 3 products in a bag. We had alfalfa cubes and alfalfa pellets and alfalfa Timothy cubes. And my goodness, today I think we have 5 different types of cubes, 4 different types of pellets, and a whole bunch of different types of bales. So it seems like we're always working on something new, and we're paying attention to our customers' requests and needs. When I say our customers, that's twofold, not only our retail dealers, but also the consumers.
Typically, what would you say who your customer is? Big-time horse owners, smaller, everyday?
We have a very good mix of all. We have some very large horse breeders, as well as the hobby farm owners, and I think our company has done a good job in looking at all sides of that and not paying particular attention to one side or the other. We've done a really good job.
Okay.
At that.
So when it comes to bagged forage, is this something that you heard from your customers that they wanted more of, and that's why you've developed more of that product?
Well, as an example, this cube right here, that's an alfalfa oat cube. There was some consumers asking retail dealers for that particular type product, and so we looked at it, did a little bit of we call it a pilot project, and after about a year of testing and seeing if it was something we wanted to do, it became reality, and now it's nationwide. So we're always looking at new and different things for our consumers as well as our retail dealers.
You bet. Owning horses easier, more economical, trying to save our pennies, but keep our horses as healthy as possible.
Absolutely.
So there's lots of different ways we can integrate Standlee Hay into our feeding programs. We're going to learn about all the products that they have to offer when we come back after this break. We have some past episodes we want to remind folks that they can access at myruraltv.com. We have a whole page dedicated to Horse Talk Live where you can see some of those archived episodes. So go check us out. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Horse Talk Live, everybody. I'm Lizzie Iwerson, and the Standlee Hay Company is our guest today. We're learning about the ever-important forage in a horse's diet and all that the product Standlee Hay Company has to offer to us horse owners. So with me today, I have Bob Buckley, who's sitting right next to me, and Dusty Standlee, who obviously is a family member of the Standlee Hay Company. Your dad was the one that started the company, is that correct, Dusty?
Yes, he did, yep. And he started in the early 80s, and I rode with him from the time I probably couldn't even walk yet when I rode with him.
Okay, so hay is second nature to you.
Yep.
So, a lot of times we hear about mold, and it seems like we hear about an awful lot.
A nemesis, right?
Yeah, there we go. Because we've learned on some past episodes of Horse Talk Live how sensitive a horse is and their digestive tract. So we've got to be awfully careful when it comes to selecting hay. Why don't you detail a few of the things that Standlee Hay does to protect against mold?
Well, I'll step in here. When we harvest the hay, we obviously do a great job of that, but when it comes time to storing it, we'll bring it into our sheds. We'll put a ground barrier, a tarp down, and put the large bales on that. Or if the hay is stored outside, we'll again put a ground barrier, and then we'll tarp it all the way around the sides as well as the top to keep any moisture coming in.
Okay. So for somebody who is going and looking at hay, whether it's Standlee Hay or not, what are some tips you can give people to look smell, detect mold in a bale?
I've shared a lot of comments with some of my dealers to allow their consumers to go in and have a bale of hay on display inside the store, maybe at the front of the store.
Okay.
And in some cases, they'll actually even maybe open up a bale in a tub. But if the hay is still intact and the bands are still on the hay, encourage them to pull some hay out of the bale, pick it up in their hands, have them smell it, feel it. If it doesn't feel damp, if it doesn't have a mildewy smell, it should smell really fresh. And obviously, if it's green, then there's no old mold that's been incorporated.
So that green color really is important.
Very important.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What do you do to make sure that the hay retains that color throughout all these processes?
Number one is, it starts in the field. You have to get this hay put in the bale at a safe moisture.
Okay.
So if we're baling hay that's 14 or 15% or higher, we're probably gonna get some what we call the sweating process or heating process in the hay, and it's probably gonna get warm and it's gonna get heat damage, which will turn the hay brown and wet, and it could mold. It's
that timing.
Yeah, it's going to lose all that nutrient value and not be near as good for the animals.
And there can be some really serious problems when a bale does heat up and get overly hot. Correct?
Especially in our business, we have some big stacks of hay that if we were to get a hot bale in a stack,
because it'll combust, correct?
Oh, yeah, it could burn things down, and we don't like to call the fire department. That's not good in our business.
Yeah, it could literally go up in smoke.
Okay. So just making sure that moisture is the right level before baling. And then if you buy a bunch of hay, is there any way to tell before it's too late what you've bought about the moisture in those bales?
We ensure that when a bale of hay leaves our plant, our facility, or our distribution centers, we know that hay at that point in time is safe.
Okay.
There's no mold in it, and we make sure of that. That's part of our quality check.
Okay.
And there's a couple other things that you could do as a consumer, even if you're buying hay from a local grower or somebody down the road. You could get a hay probe to pull an analysis with, send it off to a lab and see what it comes back as. Or they also sell a moisture probe, which you can stick inside of a bale, and it'll tell you what percent moisture the hay is within. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives you a good idea of what that hay's testing.
And it's not bad to mention, there may be times when you can't buy Standlee hay, but you can always supplement some hay that maybe isn't the best quality with some of the Standlee hay products that are a little bit easier to travel with and
store.
So the back to the timing and the nutrition involved within this hay is, when it comes time to cut your hay, is there a peak in nutrition or nutrition-wise?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people will see the little purple blooms on hay and think that they're kind of neat or whatever you want to call it. So, hay is usually the younger that you cut it, the more energy and protein that the hay is going to have.
Okay.
The more mature it gets, the more that protein and energy levels drop off. So, if you see a little bit of purple bloom in your hay, it's probably not too bad. You're still going to test in the high teens for protein more than likely. As long as you don't get 50% or 80% bloom, then proteins really start to drop off. So we try to be right around that 28-day mark when we cut. You might see 3 to 5% bloom when we typically cut it, but our proteins will be in our baled hay, for example. It's behind us. Alfalfa will usually be in that 18% protein range.
Well, let's talk more about alfalfa and what it takes to grow good quality alfalfa. What are some of its characteristics?
Well, it's
Come on now, both of you, chime in here.
you know, to grow good alfalfa, like we were talking earlier, it all starts in the ground.
Okay.
You know, we have to make sure that those nutrients are in the soil. If you have healthy soil, you're going to get healthy alfalfa. And the same goes with timothy grass, orchard grass, any forages that we're growing. It's very important that you take care of the ground.
But it's also applying the right amount of moisture, maybe when we're having some real extreme hot weather, and basically managing our fields.
And alfalfa typically is a crop that does need more water
It
than
consumes
others.
a lot of water. Yeah.
And so when you plant alfalfa, how many cuttings in one summer do you typically get?
Alfalfa will get 3 to 4 cuttings per year. Timothy will get about 2 cuttings, and then orchard grass is 2 to 3 cuttings, depending on how long the growing season is. Alfalfa, we're usually about 28 days between cutting. Timothy's about 60 days between cuttings, and then orchard's a little shorter than that.
What kind of climate does alfalfa seem to thrive in or grow best in?
Southern Idaho's high desert, so it's very hot and dry. We only get 7 or 8 inches of rain a year, so we're very, very dry. As long as we can turn that irrigation on and off, it does take a lot of water, so it likes the hot and dry to grow. And we like it that way mostly because we can put up high quality hay when it's hot and dry and not humid.
Okay. So where do you typically sell the most alfalfa? Where is it not being grown in the United States?
Geographically, I think alfalfa is pretty much all over the United States. We have very good sales in alfalfa on the East Coast, as in the central part of the U.S., as well as in the West. So I would say, though, if I had to pick one area where our alfalfa is in more demand, is on the eastern side of the Mississippi River. People understand that Western-grown hay, alfalfa in particular, is a better quality and a more nutrient forage.
Okay. So the bales that you sell, the alfalfa bales, are they compressed bales then?
We have all kinds of different bales.
Okay.
It's a great question. We typically will bale our hay in a 4-foot by 4-foot by 8-foot bale. And if that's alfalfa forage, that'll weigh 2,100 pounds. And then we have a press that we run those big bales through to produce the small compressed bale that you just referred to as the one that's sitting behind us.
Okay.
And that bale will actually weigh 50 pounds. And that bale is only 24 inches in length. It's 16 inches tall and only 12 inches wide. And people really do understand that that little bale actually weighs 50 pounds. And that's very convenient because we put those bales on a pallet. We ship that pallet to our retail dealers, and we'll put almost a ton of hay in that pallet. And that pallet is really a 4x4 by 6-foot area. So you can actually store a whole ton of hay in a 4x4 by 6-foot area.
Okay, so somebody that may not have a huge storage space.
But also the other types of bales that we have.
Okay.
We have what we call a 3-string bale. Alfalfa that could weigh up towards 130 pounds, something that we probably don't want to wrestle day in and day out, and thank goodness for machinery, right?
That's right.
And that typically is sold to the dealers that sell to the racetrack industry. And there are some other bales that we do not do, but they're called 2-string bales, and they can range anywhere from 65 to maybe 90 pounds.
Okay. And so that's alfalfa, and then that's alfalfa in the bale, and now we provide the cubes. How do we get from that form into this small cubed form that we see in front of us?
I'll take that.
All right, cheers.
We'll see how good sales is with
Yeah,
the production side of it all.
Okay.
We'll take that same great big bale of hay and we'll put it into a chopper, and we'll chop this big bale up into small shreds, if you will. And then we run it through a, help me out here, Dusty, the dye area,
Yeah, we would just call it a press or
a compression.
Yep.
But at the end of this die, there are square holes, and it's pushed through.
Okay.
And these will have to cure, meaning we've had to add steam and pressure to formulate those small fibers. And we'll have to cure them for, depending on the type of forage, but alfalfa, typically because it's so dense, will take up to 2 weeks to cure.
Okay. And then those are sold in 40-pound bags, 50-pound bags?
We actually sell them in 40 and 50-pound bags.
Okay. And we've got the cubes and the pellets that are easy to travel with. And it's the same hay, though, right? Same quality of hay.
Quality hay. You can see how nice and bright green they are.
And how great they smell. I feel like I'm in a fresh cut field.
Yeah, it's important to note that, you know, I think the pellet industry, especially over the years, has maybe gotten a rap for mixing some lower quality hay through the years or whatever that might be. But the same bale that sits behind us, that's, you know, bright green, good color, is the same bale that we run into these pellets.
Okay.
So we, you know, at the end of the day, we want to make that bright green pellet just like the bale behind us.
Okay.
You asked me earlier how you can tell if you have a good quality bale of hay. And again, when you open that bag up and you pull some cubes out of it, if it smells really fresh and like you're smelling here, you know that you're getting good quality forage.
Well, I think your next product should be a perfume that smells like this great hay, because I would wear it. And I would attract lots of cowboys, hopefully. All right, we're going to take a short break, but the Standlee Hay Company is going to stick around to share more of their products with us. We'll be right back after this. Thanks for coming back to Horse Talk Live on Rural TV. I'm Lizzie Iwerson, and today the Standlee Hay Company has traveled from Idaho to be our guest to share with us the fabulous products they have available for horses and horse owners. They have been in the hay business for quite a while and have become leaders in this industry, really developing, you know, a sound product and consistency. That is first and foremost when it comes to keeping your horses healthy. We've talked about how sensitive they are, and that consistency is what people look for when they feed. So a lot of people are traveling with their horses these days, and I would imagine that you could find a Tractor Supply nearly everywhere, or Big R, something like that, and you can buy Standlee Hay from those.
We have a number of retailers all across the United States, and if your retailer is not carrying our product, they should be talking to the owner and asking them to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd also like to add just the convenience factor of what we have too. Anytime you can carry 40 or 50 pounds in a bag, or like the bale behind us, you know, that it's 50 pounds, and you know, we'll go to shows or talk to people, and they go to lift that bale up like no big deal, you know. Well, as soon as they try to lift it, it's a little heavier than what it looks, you know. So it's a convenience factor. We have a lot of consumers that this bale comes wrapped in plastic, so you can throw it in the back of your Suburban and not make a mess, and take it home and feed your horse for a few days. So there's a huge convenience piece to all of this too, that I think we're doing great things in the forage industry that way.
Absolutely.
Also. Well, we talked a lot about alfalfa. Let's talk about the other types of hay that you offer for us. What would be, let's say, Timothy? That's another one that you guys grow a lot of.
Well, we provide Timothy in cubes. We blend it with alfalfa in cubes and pellets. We also have Timothy in a pellet form. We also have the compressed bale in a Timothy. Timothy is a highly sought after grass hay.
Okay. And what makes it so desirable for people? You've said it's a good seller.
It is, and I think probably the best attribute of Timothy would be the consistency of the nutritional values, not changing much from one cutting or the other. So if they're looking for a specific nutritional element in a horse's daily diet, Timothy can deliver that. There's not a lot of peaks and valleys.
Okay, so good, consistent nutrient value.
It's a forage that a horse can, you can put it in a stall or out in an open feeder, and a horse can sit and gnaw on Timothy all day and not get overweight.
Okay.
Not have health issues that way. A more active horse, you're going to want more alfalfa to get more energy in that horse. But Timothy, they can eat all day, and you're just not going to have any weight issues or anything like that.
And let's not forget that alfalfa is not for all animals. Timothy is.
Okay.
Timothy can be used,
safe if you have a big mixed herd.
Absolutely.
And so what are some of its physical characteristics? How do we spot Timothy?
Well, Timothy has a definite seed head at the top of the plant. I've always explained it to be, it looks like, the seed head looks like a pipe cleaner. When you were a little child, you made little stick figures. Well, the seed head could be maybe characterized as a little pipe cleaner.
Okay.
Okay. And that's a great, there's nothing else that grows like it as far as identifying that type of grass.
Okay. And how often are you able to cut Timothy typically in an ideal season? How many cuttings would you get?
Well, as Dusty has shared, we can generally get 2 cuttings a year.
Okay.
And it takes a little longer to produce than our other grasses.
Now, when you commit to alfalfa, you're in for probably about 4 years from that planting, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When we plant, it's important to get the seed right, the ground preparation, because once you plant it, alfalfa is 3 to 4 years, so you got to live with it. So. What
about Timothy? Is that the same, or?
It is. Yep. We're usually in for 3 years with Timothy, so. Get it right the first time, or you got to live with it for a while.
It's a commitment. Okay, and so the Timothy comes in all the different forms as well, then, in the bagged feed.
Bags and bales. Yes.
Okay.
Pellets and cubes.
All right. And what about orchard grass?
Orchard grass is real popular in the coastal regions of the United States, West Coast, East Coast, but Standlee Hay Company has made it available throughout the whole country, and it's becoming a little more popular throughout the whole land. Orchard grass, if it's a super great year growing wise, we might get 3 cuttings.
Okay.
It doesn't take as long to mature in the growing stage as Timothy does, but we typically get 2 cuttings. And orchard grass has a little bit of variety as far as has the peaks and valleys with the protein and the sugar levels. It does not produce generally a seed head in the 2nd or 3rd cutting, so the nutritional values tend to spike up a little bit higher. So if you're having an animal that may need some extra nutrition, certainly those later levels would be good, similar to alfalfa.
Okay. So a lot of people at home, we hear increasing numbers of old horses that may not be able to chew food as efficiently as they once were. How many, do you hear that a lot, that consumers need something for some older horses?
Yes, I hear that every week very much. The demand for pellets, if an animal has some dental issues or has difficulty in chewing, pellets are easily absorbed into the digestion process because they're relatively very small and they're very soft. And so they can be consumed quite easily. And pellets within the last 3 years has made a tremendous growth as hay forage has become a little bit short across the land, as we all know. And people have started supplementing the small amount of maybe stem hay that they have with some other types of forage, and pellets have seemed to be one of those supplements.
And the cubes and the pellets, you can add water to these too, right?
Oh, I think that's a great idea. Adding water to either one, the pellets or the cubes, aids in that digestion process. Cubes can tend to be a little bit harder than the pellets, but in general, adding water is a wonderful thing.
Does that, and then kind of probably would slow down the eating process a little bit. They get a little bit more in volume there.
I think every animal has its particular eating habits, and may they be good or bad. So I think you can certainly slow them down a little bit by adding some water.
Okay. And a lot of times, you know, we've gotten our horses, we hear a little cough or worry about the dust in our hay. Standlee Hay Company is proud of the fact that there is no dust in these products, right?
Well, we'd love to say there's no dust, but we do a very good job in controlling the dust. And in our packaging process, prior to putting the product in the package, we do run these products through some quality steps, and we remove as much dust as we possibly can before it goes into the bag.
Okay. And what about some other products that may not be hay exactly? I know we've seen some of the bagged products, and one of those was beet pulp.
Beet pulp is a byproduct from the sugar beet industry. Once the sugar has been extracted, the pulp is left over, and there's two types of beet pulp. There's a beet pulp, what they term a shred,
okay,
and also a beet pulp pellet.
And typically, who buys beet pulp for what kind of horses?
People will buy beet pulp and use in their daily dietary regimens for their horses in case the animal maybe is losing weight or they've lost weight from a lot of exercise or been worked maybe too hard. But it aids in that digestive fiber arena and the digestion process. And it's just a great product that will aid horses in controlling their weight.
Okay. And what about the straw that you have available too, and which is especially good for bedding?
I love selling our straw. Our straw has been a real fun, it's been a little bit of a challenge, but as Dusty knows firsthand, he kind of challenged me. We couldn't really sell a lot of straw in a little small square bale, but it's been real. The beauty of our straw is it's really a golden color. We use barley and wheat. The barley and wheat have been irrigated, so the fibers are real soft and silky. And it is just a beautiful straw for bedding. And you know, people use bedding for different animals, horses in particular, where mare may be foaling and there's less dust. But people also maybe use it for their dog houses.
All right. So lots of different uses for that straw. Can that be found everywhere else that you sell the Standlee Hay?
We certainly hope so.
Okay. And if your retailer doesn't carry it, then you just got to ask them, right?
That's right.
That's right.
Okay. Well, you can find out more information at StanleeHay.com. Everything you need to know. Dealer locator up there as well. So see if someone in your area is a provider, and maybe if you're heading down the road, you want to find out a place where Standlee Hay is carried, then you can plan ahead. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back after this. Thanks for coming back to Horse Talk Live, everybody. I'm Lizzie Iwerson, and Standlee Hay Company is here today to share with us their knowledge of good quality forage. We're learning about all the things that Standlee Hay has to offer, and it's more than just hay. Lots of bagged feed, even some straw for bedding, oats, beet pulp, you name it. Standlee Hay can farm it, huh?
We try to take care of the whole equine bucket.
Okay. So let's talk about, you know, we've talked that these bales are compressed, so they're not the typical bale. How does somebody who takes one of these bales home know how much to feed? We
always try to educate consumers to feed by weight and not by volume. And if I'm at a store and talking with a retail dealer and a consumer's there, and they'll say, oh, I've never seen this compressed bale before. Gee, how do I feed that? Well, I'll say, well, how do you feed your regular stem hay right now? Well, I give them a flake of hay about this big. Well, in a compressed bale, the whole bale that weighs 50 pounds is this big. So if we gave them that much, they would definitely be overfeeding.
Yes.
So what we recommend is if you're going to feed a compressed bale in the morning, if you're going to feed that compressed bale at night, we recommend that you cut the bands and let that bale relax during the course of the day. And then if you have a scale, or if you figured out how much particular amount of hay weighs from a compressed bale, we recommend that they try to weigh so they know that they're not going to overfeed.
Sure.
And we recommend they feed in a day's time 1.5 to 3% of the animal's body weight in forage.
So if we wanted to buy a large quantity, is there a simple way to figure out how many bales a person's going to need for the upcoming year?
Well, that becomes a mathematical, I won't say a problem, but a mathematical exercise.
Okay.
So you need to know how much your horse weighs, and we'll use a 1,000-pound horse as an example. And if you want to feed 1.5% a day of hay, that would be 15 pounds a day. And so if you know these bales, these compressed bales as an example, weigh 50 pounds, and you try to figure out how many days you're going to feed. So you take that 15 pounds times the number of days, and then you actually will get a grand total of total pounds, divide that by 2,000 pounds, and you can figure out how many tons of hay you need for your feeding season.
Okay.
And that's for one animal.
Okay. So you just plan accordingly, because you don't want to end up with a shortage, or...
Well, you always want to have a little carryover, and then you never know what Mother Nature is going to bring. Winter may kind of continue on a little longer, or it may shorten up as well.
So what are some good storage techniques? I'm sure you all have perfected storage of hay at the facility. How can people take hay home and keep it as fresh as possible for as long as possible?
The ideal situation would be a cool, dry, ventilated area.
Okay.
The hay will last in seemingly forever. But in eastern climates, eastern part of the U.S., we know there's a lot of humidity and there's a lot of ground temperature. If you can get the hay off the ground, maybe a pallet, and store the hay on a pallet, that would be a good. Certainly you could throw a tarp over it to keep it from bleaching in the sun, and or if the elements of rain or moisture.
Okay. Will those elements affect the nutritional quality of the hay?
In time they can. Certainly we know that if a bale of hay is bleached on one side, but if you turn it over and it's green on the bottom or on the other side, we know there's still a lot of good nutrition in there. Or maybe a short little area or level of the hay that it's been diminished somewhat, a little bit.
Okay. Well, good tips for everybody, no matter what your hay choice is. We talk a lot in this past year about the shortages of hay and trying to, cut down on the waste of hay. Do you think these products are helping to do that?
You bet. I can't tell you how many places I go out to and see maybe a lower quality hay being fed, or just what consumers might call cheaper hay, but really they're throwing 40 or 50% of it in the mud, or stepping on it, or whatever. So I think at the end of the day, when you feed quality products, you can feed less from the start. The animal isn't going to throw near as much away. It's going to consume it all. And so I think by buying quality, your feed bills and vet bills and everything are actually going to be lower, just because you're feeding less and you're feeding quality.
Right.
And you're going to have a healthier animal.
Yep.
Right, because we know how important this forage is. And by taking care of the good forage, then you're less likely to have to spend more money on a supplement to make up for what you're not getting in your forage. So I guess the easiest thing to do is start off with this good forage.
Exactly right. Water and then forage.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about at home, the process of, from what we see here, where did it start, and detail us real quickly about that.
So as I was talking earlier, we have a farming base, so we try to take these products from the farm to the end consumer. So what you see here is straight from the field. We control the quality in the field. Then we go to the plant, as you're seeing there, one of the bagging processes. Many quality control pieces inside of the plant there. And then from there we actually have 4 distribution centers on the East Coast. So from the plant, we take the logistics out to the distribution centers, also ship direct out of southern Idaho, and from there we get the products out to our customers. So, you know, Standlee Hay has its hand in it from the field to the consumer. That's really our success with the quality.
And when somebody does go to a retailer, the bags are obviously easy to spot. Are all the bales labeled as Standlee Hay?
You know, they are. Our compressed bales have a band, and it says StandleeHay.com, and so it's generally a purple band with blue writing on it. And we also have a certified bale that has a different band on it. And I'd just like to say that our bag products also are certified noxious weed free. We hear this terminology, certified. What does that really mean? It means that there's no noxious weeds in those products. We actually have the State of Idaho Department of Agriculture come in, walk our fields, certify our fields, saying that our forage is now certified noxious weed free. Then we can make a certified noxious weed free cube or pellet or a bale of hay. But let's be careful. If you want a certified noxious weed free bale of hay, look for a yellow band with purple writing on it. Instead of the purple band with blue writing on it.
So what advantages really does that have for somebody, a consumer?
You know, our government is required that we not take feed or forages into our national forests, BLM lands, that are not certified noxious weed free. So if you're traveling up into the mountains, want to go for a weekend trail ride or whatever, you need some certified noxious weed free forage. We have either in a bale form or a bag form.
Well, that's pretty impressive, because you really, I mean, not only would it be easy to travel with, but then it's safe. And you can actually
don't want to pay that big ticket, right?
No. So certified noxious weed free is another aspect to Standlee Hay.
Sure.
Okay. What about, you know, do you have any more tips for people to keep their hay fresh, safe, avoid mold, anything like that, as we close our program today?
I just cool, dry, ventilated area. If you have rodents, maybe you might get a aluminum garbage can or some kind of a container to put the product in. Typically, mice will gravitate more to straw than they will hay, but there may be a mouse attracted to hay as well. So.
All right. Well, let's take our viewers back through an overview of all the products that we can find through Standlee Hay Company. Let's start with the different types of baled hay that you have to provide.
Baled hay, forage-wise, we have alfalfa, of course. We have Timothy. We have an alfalfa orchard grass blend. And we also have a very nice alfalfa grass mix. And then we have straight orchard grass.
And
then as far as the cube and pellet lines, as far as the cubes, there is a straight alfalfa cube. It is, let's see, and then there's a Timothy alfalfa cube and a straight Timothy cube. In the pellets, we have an alfalfa pellet, Timothy alfalfa pellet, Timothy pellet, and a orchard grass pellet.
And all of these products can we find out more information on the website to educate if we're still kind of confused what fits our feeding program the best?
Yes, there's many analysis on our website. It'll give you proteins and all the analysis. There's also a dealer locator on our website, so you can punch in your zip code and find your closest retailer to where you are.
Also, feeding instructions on all of our products, with maybe a little bit more information on each of our products as well. So we encourage people to get onto our website, standleehay.com.
And you guys work really closely with Dr. Tanya Cubitt, who is an equine nutritionist. So everything here that we're talking about has been approved by Dr. Tanya and, really fits the bill.
That's correct. We work very closely with them, and we make a great team. It's worked very well.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, gentlemen, I apologize for calling Idaho, Ohio earlier. I hope you will forgive me.
Maybe someday we'll buy a farm in Ohio, and it'll be okay.
And you can name it the Lizzie Farm. Well, I appreciate you coming all this way, and appreciate you providing good quality forage for our equine companions.
Well, thanks for having us. It's been a real pleasure being here with you.
Thank you very much.
And we hope the upcoming year is very successful. We hope that lots of snow happens here this winter, so lots of dry, sunny weather in the summer.
Wonderful.
All right. Hope everybody at home has enjoyed this episode and learned a lot on forage. We know it is the cornerstone for keeping our horses healthy. So if you have any questions, visit StandleeHay.com to learn more. Until next time, we'll see you around the barn.